Welcome to Unit 2 Video Editing Practical. Today we'll talk about aspect ratio, and then we'll also hand it over to Ronan for his mixed up narrative structure. So aspect ratio is fundamental to understanding video. The aspect ratio is the proportion between the length and height in the projection of the image. The resolution of the image is dependent on how many pixels are being used. So the 16:9 aspect ratio is also known as 1920 to 1080p pixels. This is high definition resolution, HD resolution. This is the standard number of pixels in high definition displays and in most standard video projections. It's a technical term, but it's also artistic. How you want to present your video and in what resolution is an artistic choice. This will affect how your story is received by the audience. So if we see the diagram on the right, we can see common resolutions. 1920 to 1080p is widescreen, known as 16:9. Lower or lesser resolutions are like 1280 to 720, or even 720 to 480, which is a much proportionally smaller resolution. It's not going to be as sharp or clear as high definition, obviously. You might choose to use a lower resolution because of file size, given your storage or projection needs. So the format that you select for your video is based on knowing what audience you want to reach. So if you want to put this, where do you want to put your video? Is it YouTube or TikTok or Instagram? We're going to be using the widescreen 16:9 aspect ratio, like you'd find on YouTube. It's the most basic aspect ratio, and you'll see it pretty much everywhere. We'll do 16:9, and that is, we'll be editing for 1920 to 1080p widescreen high def. So here are some examples for this curriculum. We'll focus on the 16:9 aspect ratio. 9:16 aspect ratio is just a rotated 16:9, and 1:1 ratio is a square. We have 16:9 for use in widescreen TV, YouTube, and standard projection. 9:16 is TikTok and phone formatting. And then 1:1 you can find on Instagram and LinkedIn. So your narrative structure determines how you tell your story. In addition to, as we've learned, aspect ratio shows how you'll project it. Good stories follow a basic structure that most people expect to see when they tell a story or hear a story. But what happens when you mix it up? So let's have Ronan take us through that.